we've seen linear functions with the y equals mx plus b form, but there's another form, it's called the standard form. And it's a little bit different. It's where you have the whole number by itself on the right and the x and the y on the same side. The b, I'm writing it as a capital B because it's not the same thing as the slope or the y-intercept. It's a different b value. So what do we do with this? Well, basically we can take this form and use it to find other information. So we take an equation like 3x plus 4y equals 12. And again, it's standard form. We've got all the letters on one side, numbers on the other. There are two variables, no exponents. Before we turn it into the y equals mx plus b form, though, we can actually get a couple of pieces of information directly from it, like the intercepts. Right away, I can say, little table of values, my mini table of values, mini table. And what happens if x is 0? That's going to get us the y-intercept. And what happens if y equals 0? That's going to get us the x-intercept. Now, we've got a cover up here. What do I mean by a cover up? Well, if x equals 0, I cover up that term because that term will wind up being 0. And you basically have 4y equals 12. Hopefully you can do this in your head. You divide the 4 under, so it's going to be 3. Same thing with the x-intercept. If you make the y equals 0, we cover that up. 3x is equal to 12, so x must equal 4. This gives us the two intercepts. My y-intercept, 0, 3, and my x-intercept, 4, 0. I can also get the rate of change from this, the slope, as the two ordered pairs, 0, 3 and 4, 0, and subtract the y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. But if you actually start looking for patterns, you're going to see that we can actually pick out the slope just from these two values. We'll see that in a little bit. So what do I want to do now? Now I want to take a look at what the graph for this is going to look like. Well, because I've got the intercepts already, this is going to be pretty easy to do. 0, 3, this means 3 on the y-axis, and 4, 0, 4 on the x-axis, and there's my line. Can you see the y-intercept? Can you count the slope? I still want to show you how to change this into the y equals mx plus b format, but realize we have lots of information from this. To change it into the y equals mx plus b, I'm going to isolate the y. So let me just recopy this over here. Isolate the y. Well, I've got the y term and it's positive on this side, so I'm going to leave it here. Bring the 3x to the other side. The 12 stays there, and you divide through by the coefficient in front of the y. It's two steps, but we put it together in just one step, and we summarize the bottom. Y equals negative 3/4 x plus 3. There's my y-intercept. There's my slope, negative 3/4. Everything good? All right. Here again we have a standard form. It's a minus here. There's a negative. Don't worry, everything's still going to work the same way. What I want to look at first is the x and the y-intercept. So, mini table of values. If x is 0, y is going to be equal to, divide the negative 3 under, so it's going to be a positive 10/3. And if y equals 0, cover that up. 5x equals negative 10, divide that under, negative 2. So I can count my graph right away. Y-intercept is 10/3. That's a little bit more than 3. And my x-intercept is negative 2. My line is going to go like this. Let's take a look at the y equals mx plus b form, slope-intercept form. Now I've got a negative 3y on the left. I really want this term to be positive. So this time I'm going to take the 3y and put it to the right side of the equal sign. The 5x stays on the left, and the negative 10 is going to come across onto the left side. Now you can see how lining things up is a bit of a pain here. You want to be better organized in what you do. However, my next step, got to divide through by the coefficient of y, and that gives me y equals 5/3 x plus 10/3. take a look at that. We have the same y-intercept, the slope 5/3. Well, maybe you couldn't see that in the graph before. This is going to be a little bit easier for that slope. So one last detail, okay? You guys asked me for another problem to do. So here's a homework problem. I want you to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept for 2x minus 5y equals 15. So same deal, I want you to make the mini table, graph, and then find the y equals mx plus b form for that equation in standard form.